And we're back. Woke up early to record this before work because I forgot to do it last night. This is where the league sits right now. It's pretty crazy even. Best teams are top 4 at 5-2. Sutton's randomly at 4-3. There's 8 teams at 3-4, and then Hayden is at 1-6. So 7 of the 14 teams make the playoffs. Everyone's still alive. Technically, Hayden, if he takes like one more loss, probably not going to make it in because we've never had worse than a 7-7 team make it in. Basically, if you get to 7 wins, it's kind of like Bulls. If you get to 7 wins, you got a chance. But Hayden is running out of time for that. So let's get into the first matchup in these predictions. First things first, me versus McCosey. I don't think there's any bye weeks this week, but I'm missing Debo still because he's hurt. For McCosey, Wilson and Sutton have to go against the Kansas City defense, which is tough. He does get Jamar Chase back off bye, but Waller has to play the Jets defense. Jamar Chase has to play San Fran's defense, where I get to play DeAndre Swift against Washington. Mike Evans against Buffalo, that'll be a shootout. Buffalo's defense looked horrible. Diggs versus Tampa Bay, same thing. I'm big on Thursday night. Dalton Schultz versus Carolina. Gus Edwards versus Arizona. I just think I have slightly better matchups. I think I have slightly better running backs. And I think I'm going to win this, but it's going to be crazy close. Basically, coin flip here. All right, now we got Brett taking on Clay. Let's see. So I think Saquon is going to play this week, but he is going against that Jets defense, which is tough, but it's still better than any alternative for Clay. If you're wondering why Kenny Pickett is starting and not Lamar Jackson, he's basically just goading Brett into not winning this matchup just because it would be bad luck to beat Kenny. But I don't know. Amon-Ra plays Vegas, but that means Goff does too, so it's a good matchup for both of them. Brett didn't have a single tough matchup, and I think we're getting to the point in the season where he's not going to give up a fantasy win just because Kenny Pickett's on the other side. So I'm going to take Brett here. Clay, great psychological game. If you actually keep Kenny Pickett in, it might be dumb, but I respect the hell out of it. All right, Briggs versus Hayden. Briggs is projected the most points this week, right above me and Hayden. Or not me and Hayden, me and Pushan. And Hayden is by far the worst team in the league. But maybe not this week. He's projected 114, which is pretty solid. I'll get to Briggs' team in a second. Hayden's team looks better than it normally does just because Jahmyr Gibbs is a legit number 1 option now that Monty's out. So better pray that Monty stays out. Yeah, there's not much else to say about this Hayden team. It's just not great. You should probably think about dealing Jefferson, but I don't know what you'd realistically get for him, so I don't know. On Briggs' side, he might have the best team in the league at this point. Josh Allen's elite fantasy. These are the best. This is fantasy wide receiver 1, fantasy wide receiver 3. I think Hill's the highest scoring fantasy player across all positions too right now. JT finally looked like an RB1 last week, so that's horrifying for the league. I mean, I'm taking Briggs here. It's just a better team. Hayden would need a miracle. Cal versus Sutton. Cal's a slight favorite. Another tough matchup, but I guess they're all going to be tough matchups because we all just have mediocre rosters because it's a 14-man league. So both these guys are pretty running back heavy, like Cousins versus Stafford, whatever. But then Eckler and Mostert versus McCaffrey and Etienne is where this matchup's going to make or break. Unfortunately, I think that goes to Cal, especially with Mostert questionable. I mean, Sutton does have better wide receivers and a better tight end, but if Pickens can find the end zone, if one of these 4 for Cal can find the end zone, that'll be huge. I think Eckler probably has a huge day against Chicago, bounce back week. But CMC legacy week this week. He's not losing 3 games in a row. No way. God, I'm going to clip that and put it in my next video if I'm wrong. I'm taking Cal here. Ish versus Scott. I'm going to assume that Scott does not start injured Danny Dimes over CJ Stroud playing Carolina this week, but what do I know? So I'm going into this prediction assuming that Scott is favorited by like a point due to CJ Stroud. Ish, you finally don't have to start AJ Dillon, which is huge. But now that I'm seeing Zach Moss is hurt, so you might have to start AJ Dillon. That sucks. Yeah, wow, that's horrible. Let's see. Ish has Derrick Henry and Garrett Wilson to plug in now. Garrett Wilson against New York Giants might be so good. Man. Scott, on the other hand, Isaiah Pacheco, really good running back, 1, but he doesn't have a running back 2 unless he wants to put in Latavius Murray or Najee, which are bad options. Scott might want to trade one of his really good wide receivers for a running back. Sadly, I don't have any more running backs to give. I'm officially picking the upset here. Scott takes down the number 1 overall team in our league, and I'm going Scott here. I'm sorry, Ish. Scott takes the W. All right, Mace versus Rag. These are 2 really weird teams. Like, I would have guessed Rag would be 4-3 and Kyle would be like 2-5 or something. But everyone's at 3-4, so there it is. Great Henderson pickup by Mace down here. He was obvious running back 1 in LA last week. Mace, you've been really quiet this year. Your team's been quiet and you've been quiet. I feel like normally we hear more smack talk. How you doing, man? You okay? Hope you watch this. Rag, Kamara, and Hunt are questionable. I'm sure they'll play. Hunt was a fantastic pickup, especially now that Jerome Ford went down. And if Bijan if they give him the ball, Rag's going to have a fantastic 3 running back punch. In this matchup, once again, Kelsey versus the world, and I'm taking the world. I'm taking Rag here. Sorry, Mish. Final matchup of the day, 2 of our heaviest hitters. Both these teams were at 5-0 at one point. They've dropped the last 2. Oh, boy. Rob, another week of not being projected to break 100, and Pushan is our second highest projected scorer. Rob's team is in shambles. Brian Robinson has to play Philly's front line. Neither of his running backs are projected more than 9. Gus Edwards had a breakout week, so it's looking like Hill is sliding towards RB2, and the Ravens tested out doing a 3 running back room last week. That might have just been because how much they were winning, but still scary. And he has a slightly injured Garrett Everett, whatever the fuck. I'm actually rooting for Rob here because it would be great for the league because Pushan needs to get as many losses as he can while he can. Especially with Kenneth Walker and Aaron Jones questionable. Rob doesn't have a chance here. It's Pushan. I have faith that his boys will bounce back. It's Pushan here. It always was. Sorry, Rob. All right, so here's my official predictions for Week 8. We are over the hump into the second half of the season, which is crazy. But I got me beating McCosey, Brett beating Clay, Briggs taking down Hayden again. Hayden slides to 1-7. Cal over Sutton, Scott over Ish, Rag over Mace, and Pushan beating Rob. This week is basically, if my predictions come right, Hayden slides further down, but the top teams come back down to the pack a little bit. So, good luck this week, fellas. I'll see you on Tuesday for the recap.